I was folding my grandson's school uniforms when I heard the suitcase crash onto the bedroom floor upstairs. The sound exploded through our old Victorian house in Riverside like a thunderclap. At 67 years old, I'd learned to trust my gut feelings about trouble brewing. The same instinct that helped me catch cheating students and spot kids who needed extra support was now screaming warnings I desperately didn't want to believe. I put down Ethan's pressed white shirt and climbed the creaking stairs, my heart pounding with each step. Daniel's bedroom door stood wide open, like an invitation to witness disaster. He was throwing clothes into his black travel bag with the frantic speed of someone running from a burning building. No folding, no care, just grabbing everything in sight. His work laptop sat open on the unmade bed, multiple browser windows glowing bright on the screen like warning lights. Going somewhere. I asked from the doorway, trying to keep my voice steady. He didn't look up, didn't even pause. Business trip. Last minute thing. The lie hung in the air between us like thick smoke you could almost touch. Daniel worked tech support for a local computer repair company downtown. They didn't send him on business trips anywhere. They barely sent him to the office 5 blocks away. For how long? I pressed, stepping closer, not sure yet. He grabbed his toiletries from the dresser, knocking over a framed photo of Sarah holding newborn Ethan. The glass cracked loudly against the hardwood floor. But Daniel stepped over it without even glancing down. My heart clenched painfully in my chest. That photo had sat in that exact spot since Sarah died giving birth to Ethan 13 years ago. Daniel used to kiss his fingertips and touch the frame every single night before bed, whispering goodnight to his lost wife. Now he walked past his wife's broken image like it was just trash on the sidewalk. Daniel, stop. I moved into the room, my legs feeling weak. Talk to me. What's really happening here? He finally met my eyes, and what I saw there chilled me straight to the bone. Nothing. No guilt. No sadness, no connection to reality, just cold determination and something that looked almost like relief. Like he'd been waiting for this moment. I'm leaving? Mom, I should have done this years ago. The words hit me like a physical punch to the stomach. All those years of raising his son while he worked, through his terrible grief. More than a decade of being the mother Ethan desperately needed. While Daniel slowly disappeared into his computer screens and late-night activities, I'd chosen not to question too closely. Over a decade of holding our broken family together with my teacher's pension and grandmother's endless love. What about Ethan? My voice cracked on my grandson's name. He's better off with you. He always has been. Daniel zipped the suitcase with finality, the sound seeming to echo through the entire house. Probably reaching Ethan's room where my grandson was supposedly doing homework. You can't just abandon your son like this. The words came out as a desperate plea. I'm not abandoning him. I'm leaving him with the person who actually raised him. Daniel lifted the suitcase from the bed with both hands. You've been his real parent since day one. Now it's official and legal. The casual cruelty of his words left me completely speechless, unable to form any response. He walked past me toward the stairs, and I grabbed his arm firmly. Daniel, please. Whatever's wrong, whatever you're going through, we can work through it together as a family. He shrugged away from my touch like I was a complete stranger he'd never met. There is no family, Mom. There's just you and Ethan playing house while I pay the bills. Well, now you can figure out how to pay them yourself. My blood turned to ice water in my veins. What does that mean? Daniel, what does that mean? But Daniel was already heading downstairs, dragging his suitcase behind him with heavy thuds on each step. I followed quickly, my slippers catching on the worn carpet runner, nearly tripping twice in the living room. Ethan sat at the antique desk doing algebra homework with careful concentration. He looked up when we entered, taking in his father's suitcase, and my panicked expression with those intelligent brown eyes that reminded me so much of Sarah every single day. Going somewhere, Dad? Ethan's voice was calm, too calm for a child. Daniel paused at the front door, his hand on the knob. For just a brief moment, I thought I saw his resolve waver as he looked at his son standing there. Ethan had grown tall and lean like his father had been at that age, but with Sarah's thoughtful nature and quiet intensity burning in his eyes. "I need some time away, buddy. Grandma will take care of you like always. For how long?" Ethan asked simply. "I don't know yet. Could be a while." Ethan nodded once, like he was filing away information for later analysis, storing it in his remarkable brain. "Okay, then." The simple acceptance in my grandson's voice broke my heart into 1,000 pieces. No tears, no protests, no desperate pleas for his father to stay and be a real parent. Just quiet resignation, as if he'd been expecting this exact moment for weeks or months. Daniel opened the front door and October air rushed into our warm house like an unwelcome visitor. "I'll call when I'm settled somewhere. Where are you going?" I asked. My voice barely above a whisper. "Somewhere I can breathe again without drowning." The door closed behind him with a soft click that somehow sounded louder than if he'd slammed it with all his strength. Through the window, I watched him load his suitcase into his silver Honda and drive away from the house where his son had lived his entire life. Never once looking back. Ethan and I stood in the sudden silence of our living room, the quiet almost suffocating. The grandfather clock in the corner ticked steadily like a heartbeat. The furnace hummed to life with its familiar sound. Outside, a car engine faded into the distance until we couldn't hear it anymore. "Is he coming back?" Ethan asked quietly. I wanted to lie, to protect him from the terrible truth I could see clearly in his father's eyes. But Ethan was too smart for comfortable lies, too observant to be fooled. "I don't think so, sweetheart. I'm so sorry." He closed his algebra book with careful precision and stacked it neatly with his other textbooks in a perfect pile. Then he looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before on his young face, something ancient and knowing. "Grandma, don't worry about anything. I'll handle the situation." The words were so unexpected, delivered with such quiet confidence that I almost laughed out loud. Handle what exactly? He was 13 years old, just a child. What could he possibly handle about his father abandoning us without warning? But something in his tone made me pause and really look at him. There was no childish bravado, no empty comfort meant to make me feel better. Just calm certainty, like he knew something important I didn't. "What do you mean, Ethan?" "Handle what?" He picked up his books and headed toward the stairs with purpose. "I need to check our bank accounts first. Then we'll know exactly what we're dealing with here." Bank accounts. My 13-year-old grandson was talking about checking bank accounts like it was the most normal thing in the world. "Ethan, wait a minute." But he was already climbing the stairs to his room, leaving me alone in a house that suddenly felt enormous and empty, filled with questions I couldn't answer and a future I couldn't see clearly. Before we continue, please leave a comment telling us where you're watching from and subscribe to Never Too Old channel. We're creating a community of incredible women who know that our best chapters can happen at any age, no matter what life throws at us. Now back to the story. That first night without Daniel, I couldn't sleep at all. I lay in my bed listening to the house settle around me, every creak and groan magnified in the darkness like monsters in the shadows. Around midnight, I heard it clearly. The soft clicking of computer keys coming from Ethan's room. Steady and purposeful. I padded down the hallway in my bathrobe and slippers, pausing outside his door to listen. Light seeped from beneath the frame, and the typing continued with steady, purposeful rhythm, far too focused for a boy who should be sleeping peacefully. I knocked gently on the door. "Ethan, it's past midnight, sweetheart. You should be sleeping." "Come in, Grandma." His voice was clear, alert. I pushed open the door to find Ethan sitting at his desk, still fully dressed in his school clothes, surrounded by notebooks and printed papers scattered everywhere. His laptop screen glowed with what looked like multiple windows and data streams I couldn't begin to understand or identify. "What are you doing up so late at night?" I asked, concerned. "Research." He gestured to the papers scattered across his desk like a detective's caseboard. "I've been going through Dad's digital footprints for the past 3 hours straight." Digital footprints. The term sounded foreign coming from my grandson's mouth. I moved closer, trying to make sense of the documents spread before me. Bank statements, credit reports, what looked like email printouts, all bearing our family name in black and white. Ethan, where did you get all these papers? Dad isn't very careful with his passwords at all. He clicked something on his laptop and a new window opened showing what appeared to be Daniel's email account, right there on the screen. He uses the same one for everything. Sarah 2010, the year they got married. My stomach dropped like a stone. You hacked into your father's email account? Technically, I just logged in with his password. It's not hacking if he left the door unlocked and wide open. Ethan's matter-of-fact tone made my head spin with confusion. Grandma, you need to sit down right now. What I found is way worse than we thought. I sank into the chair beside his desk, my legs suddenly unsteady beneath me. How much worse can it be? Ethan handed me a printed bank statement with my name at the top in bold letters. I stared at the numbers, blinking hard to make sure I was reading correctly, hoping I was wrong. This can't be right. This is impossible. My voice trembled. My savings account showed $12. Just $12 total. It's right, Grandma. His young voice carried a weight no child should ever bear. Dad didn't just take some money when he left today. He's been draining our accounts for months, little by little. The paper trembled in my hands like a leaf. $12. My life savings accumulated over decades of teaching, scrimping, and saving, reduced to pocket change you couldn't buy lunch with. What about Ethan's college fund? I whispered, afraid of the answer. Ethan handed me another statement without a word. The account that should have contained $43,000 showed $0. Completely empty, gone. No. The word came out as a broken whisper. No, that money was protected. It was in a special education savings account that couldn't be touched. Not anymore, Grandma. Ethan pulled up another document on his screen, his face glowing in the blue light. 3 weeks ago, Dad transferred it all to his personal checking account. Then he moved it somewhere else where we can't see it. I felt like I was drowning in numbers and betrayal, unable to catch my breath. Somewhere else? Where? That's what took me so long to figure out tonight. Ethan's fingers moved across the keyboard with practiced ease, like a concert pianist. Dad's been working with someone else. Her name is Nicole Rivera. She works at Meridian Financial Services downtown. He pulled up a social media profile showing a young woman with dark hair and a bright, confident smile. Professional photos in business suits, vacation pictures on beaches, inspirational quotes about living your best life plastered everywhere. She's his girlfriend, isn't she? I asked, already knowing the answer. More than that, Grandma. She's been helping him move money around, create new accounts we don't know about, even apply for loans using our information. Ethan's jaw tightened with an anger that looked startling and wrong on his young face. Grandma, they've been planning this for months and months. This wasn't sudden. The room spun around me like a carnival ride. I gripped the edge of Ethan's desk, trying to process what he was telling me, trying to understand how this was possible. What kind of loans are you talking about? Ethan clicked to another document, and my heart stopped. A $30,000 personal loan using your name and social security number. A $15,000 credit card application using my social security number with a fake age listed as 25 years old. They forged all the signatures perfectly. Identity theft. My own son had stolen my identity and his child's identity to fund his escape with another woman, to start a new life while destroying ours. How do you know all this? How did you find this out? I've been watching Dad's behavior for weeks now. Ethan minimized one window and opened another, revealing more damning evidence. The secret phone calls he'd take in his car. The way he acted nervous when certain emails came in. How he quickly closed his laptop when I walked into the room suddenly. I started paying attention because something felt wrong in my gut. But how did you learn to do this? To find this information? YouTube tutorials mostly. Online forums about computer security and digital investigation. It's not that hard once you understand the basic principles. Ethan's voice was calm. Like he was explaining simple arithmetic. I stared at my grandson. This child I'd raised from birth, changed his diapers, taught him to read, and realized I'd been living with a stranger all along. While I'd been helping him with homework and packing his lunches, he'd been teaching himself cybersecurity skills in secret. Ethan, this is illegal. What they've done to us is completely illegal. I know, Grandma. His voice was calm, steady as a rock. That's why I documented everything carefully. Every transfer, every forged document, every fraudulent application. I have proof of all of it, everything they did. He opened a folder on his desktop labeled Evidence in capital letters, and my breath caught in my throat. Dozens of files, hundreds of screenshots, bank records, email conversations between Daniel and Nicole discussing their plans in detail. They were going to disappear together, start fresh somewhere far away. Nicole had been looking at apartments in different cities across the country. They were planning to change their names legally and start over with our money, with everything we had. We're planning, Ethan corrected, noticing my expression. Their plans had a few major snags today. Before I could ask what he meant, his laptop chimed with an email notification. Ethan glanced at the screen and smiled, a smile that sent chills racing down my spine. That would be Dad's bank calling about the fraud alert I filed this afternoon. You filed a fraud alert? My voice came out high and squeaky. I filed several things today, actually. Ethan leaned back in his chair like a lawyer who just won his case. Fraud alerts, identity theft reports, complaints to the State Banking Commission. Detailed reports with all the evidence attached. My mouth fell open in shock. Ethan, what have you done? I protected us, Grandma. His voice was matter-of-fact, like he was discussing a school project. Dad thought he could steal from us and walk away clean, start fresh. He thought we were too trusting and helpless to fight back effectively. The laptop chimed again with another notification. Ethan glanced at the new email and his smile widened even more. And that would be confirmation that Nicole Rivera has been suspended from Meridian Financial pending investigation into client account irregularities and suspicious activity. I felt dizzy, like the room was spinning out of control. While I'd been crying myself to sleep and wondering how we'd pay next month's bills, my grandson had been waging digital warfare against the people who'd betrayed us. How did you learn to do all this? I asked in wonder. The same internet that taught Dad how to commit financial fraud taught me how to stop it. Ethan closed his laptop and looked at me directly, his eyes old beyond his years. Grandma, they didn't just steal our money. They tried to steal our entire future. Someone had to make sure there were consequences. I looked around Ethan's room with completely new eyes. The organized desk, the neat stacks of evidence, the calm determination of a child who'd been forced to become his own protector, his own hero. What happens now? I asked weakly. Ethan stood up and began organizing his papers into careful piles, labeling each one. Now we wait and watch. Dad's accounts are frozen solid. Nicole's career is over and destroyed. And their apartment hunting has stalled since their loan applications keep getting flagged for fraud. He paused, looking younger for just a moment, despite everything he'd accomplished. And tomorrow we start figuring out how to get our money back. Every penny. The next morning, I woke to the smell of coffee and scrambled eggs wafting through the house. I found Ethan in the kitchen, fully dressed for school in his uniform, 2 plates set on our small breakfast table like a restaurant. You cooked breakfast for us? I asked, surprised. You need to eat something good, and I figured we both needed our strength today. He poured orange juice into my glass with the careful attention of someone much older. I've been thinking about our next steps overnight. I sat down, marveling at how normal this felt, despite everything that had happened in the last 24 hours. Ethan eating cereal while discussing financial fraud like other kids might talk about their weekend plans or video games. What kind of next steps are you thinking? Ethan pulled out a manila folder and opened it beside his breakfast, methodical as always. I spent the rest of last night digging deeper into Nicole's background and history. What I found is going to help us, but it's also pretty disturbing and scary. He handed me a printed document that looked like a police report, official and serious. Nicole Rivera has been running financial scams for years before this. This is from when she worked at Premier Investment Services in Toledo before moving here to Riverside. I scanned the report, my coffee growing cold as I read with growing horror. Embezzlement, unauthorized access to client accounts, falsified investment statements, fraud charges. She was arrested, charged, but the case was dropped when she agreed to pay restitution and resign quietly. Then she moved here to Riverside and got hired at Meridian Financial, Ethan continued, turning to another page. They never checked her background properly. She lied on her application. How did you find all this information? Court records are public information. You just have to know where to look and how to search. Ethan's tone was matter-of-fact, but I could see the intensity in his eyes. But here's the really interesting part, Grandma. Nicole has been stealing from our current clients, too. Right now, under everyone's noses. He pulled out more documents, bank statements, investment portfolios, transfer records, all showing missing money. Ethan, where did you get all these papers? Nicole uses the same password strategy as Dad did. Once I figured out her pattern, I could access her work accounts easily. He paused, seemingly reading my shocked expression. I know it sounds bad, but Grandma, she's been stealing from elderly people. People your age who trusted her with their retirement savings. Everything they have. My hands shook as I looked through the evidence, page after page of victims. Mrs. Elizabeth Miller, 82 years old. Missing $30,000 from our pension account. Mr. Richard Hayes. 74 life savings reduced by half. Mrs. Dorothy Chun. 79 lost everything. Page after page of victims. Real people with real lives destroyed. This is horrible. This is evil. It gets worse, Grandma. Ethan clicked something on his laptop, which he brought to the breakfast table. Dad knew about all of this. He's been helping her cover her tracks in exchange for help with our money. They're partners. The screen showed email conversations between Daniel and Nicole. My son discussing how to hide stolen funds, how to create false digital trails, how to make elderly victims think their missing money was due to market losses. Just bad luck. Your father helped her steal from other families. My voice cracked. He set up fake investment accounts to make the thefts look legitimate and legal. He created false documents to show fake losses that never happened. He even helped her identify which clients had the most money and the least family oversight to protect them. Ethan's young voice carried a disgust that broke my heart completely. Dad didn't just betray us, Grandma. He's been betraying innocent people for months, helping her hurt them. I pushed my breakfast away, my appetite completely gone, feeling sick. My son hadn't just stolen from his own family. He'd become a predator targeting vulnerable elderly people who trusted him. How many victims total? I've identified 17 so far. Total losses of over $400,000. Ethan closed the laptop and looked at me seriously, his face grave. But I think I can help them get their money back, Grandma. I think I can fix this. How? How can you possibly do that? The same way I'm going to help us get ours back. He stood up and walked to our kitchen window, looking out at the morning sunshine like a general surveying a battlefield. Yesterday, I focused on stopping them from doing more damage. Today, I start the recovery process for everyone. Recovery process? The words sounded so official coming from a 13-year-old's mouth. I'm going to contact each victim and provide them with evidence of what happened to their money, proof they can use. Then I'm going to help them file complaints with the proper authorities. He turned back to me, his eyes blazing with determination. And I'm going to make sure Dad and Nicole face consequences for every single person they hurt. Every single family they destroyed. The determination in his voice was both inspiring and terrifying at the same time. My grandson was taking on the responsibility of seeking justice for multiple families. And he was doing it with the calm confidence of someone who knew exactly what he was doing. Ethan, this is so much responsibility for someone your age. Age doesn't matter when you have the skills and the evidence. Grandma, he sat back down and reopened his laptop. Besides, someone has to do it. These people trusted Nicole with their life savings. They trusted Dad to protect their investments. They deserve to know the truth. He pulled up what looked like a detailed spreadsheet with names, amounts, and dates, all organized perfectly. Mrs. Miller doesn't even know her money is missing yet. Nicole has been sending her fake statements, showing gains while actually draining her account slowly. Mr. Hayes thinks he lost money in a bad investment. But really, Nicole just transferred it to her personal account and covered it up. How will you contact them? What will you say? Very carefully. I can't just call them and say their financial advisor is a criminal. I need to approach this properly with evidence they can understand and verify independently. Ethan clicked to another document. I'm going to send anonymous packages to each victim. Complete documentation of what happened to their money, instructions for how to report the crimes, and contact information for legal aid services that can help them. Anonymous packages? You're not going to tell them who you are? I can't reveal who I am without compromising the investigation. But I can make sure each person gets the information. They need to protect themselves and recover their losses. His voice was firm. I watched my grandson organize evidence against financial predators. With the same methodical care he used to organize his school supplies. It was surreal. What about us? Our money? That's more complicated because Dad had legal access to our accounts initially. But the fraudulent loans using our identities, that's clearly criminal. Ethan pulled up another folder on his screen. I've already filed the paperwork to dispute those loans. The investigation should take a few weeks, but we should be able to get that debt removed from our names. And our actual savings? The money he took? Ethan's expression grew more serious. That's going to take longer, but I think I can trace where the money went and prove it was transferred for illegal purposes. If Nicole goes to prison for the other thefts, we might be able to recover some of our losses through restitution. If she goes to prison? I asked. Oh, she's definitely going to prison, Grandma. Ethan's voice carried absolute certainty. I have enough evidence to convict her 10 times over. The question is whether Dad will cooperate with authorities or go down with her like sinking. Ship. Ethan closed his laptop and looked at me with those serious brown eyes that reminded me so much of Sarah every single day. Grandma, I need you to understand something important. This is going to get harder before it gets easier. When the police start investigating, when lawyers get involved, when this becomes public, people are going to ask questions about how a 13-year-old obtained all this evidence. What will you tell them? I asked nervously. The truth. That Dad and Nicole were careless with their digital security, and I was smart enough to document their crimes before they could cover their tracks. He paused. But I need you to be prepared for people to be impressed and scared by what I can do. Are you scared, Ethan? I asked softly. Ethan considered this question with a thoughtfulness that reminded me so much of his mother. No, I'm angry. And anger is more useful than fear when you're fighting for your family. He stood up and gathered his school backpack, slinging it over his shoulder. I should get to class. I have a chemistry test today and I still need to maintain my grades while I'm taking down financial criminals. The casual way he transitioned from discussing federal crimes to worrying about his chemistry test would have been funny if it weren't so. Surreal, Ethan. He paused at the kitchen door. I'm proud of you and I'm sorry you had to grow up so fast. I didn't grow up fast, Grandma. I just discovered I was already grown up. He smiled, and for a moment, he looked like the child I'd raised. Don't worry, we're going to be okay. And so are all the people Dad and Nicole hurt. After he left for school, I sat in my quiet kitchen, surrounded by evidence of crimes I never could have imagined my own son committing. My grandson was fighting a war one didn't fully understand, using weapons I couldn't even identify. But for the first time since Daniel walked out our door, I felt something besides fear and betrayal washing over me. I felt hope. 3 days later, I was sorting through bills at the kitchen table when the phone rang. The caller ID showed Daniel's number, and my heart jumped despite everything he'd done to us. Double quotes. Hello, Mom. Daniel's voice was strained, desperate, in a way I'd never heard before. Daniel, you want to talk now? Something's wrong. Everything's falling apart, and I think someone's targeting me and my girlfriend, Nicole. Someone dangerous. I glanced toward the stairs where Ethan was supposedly doing homework. The soft clicking of computer keys drifted down from his room just like every evening since Daniel left. What kind of targeting are you talking about? I kept my voice neutral. My bank accounts are frozen solid. The police showed up at my motel asking questions about identity theft. Nicole got fired from her job and now she's being investigated by the State Banking Commission. Daniel's words tumbled out in a rush. Mom, someone knows everything. They have records of things that should be private. Maybe your private things weren't as private as you thought they were. This isn't a joke. Mom, whoever's doing this, they have access to emails, bank records, even phone calls between me and Nicole. They sent our boss a complete file documenting every transaction she's ever made illegally. I felt a chill of pride mixed with concern. Ethan had been busy. Daniel, maybe this is just consequences catching up with you. No, this is coordinated. This is someone with serious computer skills who wants to destroy us completely. His voice cracked with panic. Mom, I think they might come after you and Ethan next. You need to be careful. The irony was almost laughable. Daniel warning me to protect myself and Ethan from the very person who is actually protecting us. Where are you staying right now? A motel outside town. Nicole and I had to use cash because our credit cards aren't working anymore. Daniel paused. Mom, I know I screwed up. I know I hurt you and Ethan, but I never meant for it to go this far. How far did you mean for it to go? I asked quietly. I was just going to borrow the money temporarily. Nicole had this investment opportunity that was guaranteed to triple our money within 6 months. We were going to pay everything back with interest, I swear. The same tired lie criminals always told themselves. It was just borrowing. It was going to work out. Nobody was going to get hurt. Daniel, you stole Ethan's college fund. You used our identities to get loans. That's not borrowing. That's fraud. I know. His voice broke. But Mom, listen to me. Whoever's doing this to us, they're not just exposing what we did. They're actively sabotaging us. Our car got repossessed yesterday. The apartment we were going to rent in Jacksonville fell through because the landlord received an anonymous tip about our background. Someone is hunting us down. Jacksonville. So they had settled on a destination after their original plans fell apart. Maybe you should turn yourself in to the police. Turn myself in for what? Borrowing money from my own family? Taking out loans using family information? Daniel's desperation was turning to anger. What we did might be morally wrong, but most of it isn't technically illegal. What about the elderly people your girlfriend stole from? I asked calmly. The silence on Daniel's end stretched for nearly 10 seconds. How do you know about that? His voice was barely a whisper. The same way someone else knows about it. The same way the police know about it. The same way Nicole's former employer knows about it. I kept my voice steady, though my heart was racing. Daniel, you didn't just betray your family. You helped that woman steal from innocent people. I didn't. Daniel struggled with words. Look, Nicole had some problems at her old job, but that was different. What we did with your money was just family business. Family business? My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. You abandoned your son and stole his future to run away with a criminal. She's not a criminal. She made some mistakes, but she's trying to start over. We both are. The clicking from upstairs stopped suddenly. A moment later, I heard Ethan's bedroom door open and his quiet footsteps on the stairs. Daniel, I think you need to face reality. Your girlfriend is going to prison for embezzlement. You're probably going to prison for fraud, and Ethan and I are going to rebuild our lives without you. Prison? Daniel's voice jumped an octave. Mom, nobody's going to prison. This is all just a misunderstanding that got blown out of proportion. Ethan appeared in the kitchen doorway, moving silently to stand beside my chair. He held up his laptop screen, showing me what looked like a news article. The headline read, "Local financial advisor arrested in embezzlement scheme." My breath caught. "Daniel, you should probably turn on the news right now. Why?" He sounded confused and scared. "Your girlfriend was arrested this morning." The sound that came through the phone was somewhere between a sob and a scream. "That's impossible. She was just here an hour ago." We were planning our next move together. Where is here exactly? I pressed. "The Sunset Motel on Route 9, room 12. Daniel's voice was becoming increasingly frantic. "Mom, if they arrested Nicole, they're going to come for me next. I need help. I need money to get out of town." Ethan walked to the kitchen counter and picked up a notepad. He wrote something quickly and showed it to me. "Keep him talking. Police are 5 minutes away." My heart nearly stopped. Ethan had called the police on his own father. "Daniel, running isn't going to solve anything at all. Running is the only thing that's going to keep me out of prison." Daniel's breathing was becoming labored. "Mom, please. I know I don't deserve your help, but I'm your son. You raised me. Doesn't that count for something?" It counted for something when you were the son I raised. "The person on this phone is a stranger who stole from his own child and left us with $12. $12? Daniel's voice cracked. "Mom, there should be more than that. I didn't take everything." "You took everything, Daniel. Our savings, Ethan's college fund, even Sarah's memorial account. Everything. I can pay it back. Once this investigation blows over, I can get another job, make payments, fix everything." "How are you going to pay back money you helped steal from 17 elderly people again?" I asked. Silence. Double quotes Daniel. "How do you know the exact number?" Ethan held up another note. "Don't answer that." "I know because the evidence is public now. Police, lawyers, victims, families. Everyone knows what you and Nicole did. Someone's been feeding you information." Daniel's voice turned suspicious. "Mom, who have you been talking to? Did you hire a private investigator?" "I don't need to hire anyone, Daniel. You and Nicole were sloppy. You left digital fingerprints everywhere." "Digital fingerprints?" Daniel paused. "Mom, you barely know how to use email. How would you know about digital fingerprints?" Ethan moved to the window and peered through the curtains. He held up 3 fingers, then 2, then 1. "Maybe I'm not as helpless as you thought." "Mom, I need you to listen to me very carefully. Whoever has been helping you, whoever has been giving you this information, they're dangerous. They've destroyed my life. They've destroyed Nicole's life. And they won't stop until..." The line went quiet except for muffled voices in the background. "Daniel?" I called out, "Mom, .. His voice was different now, defeated and broken. "I have to go. The police are here." Through the phone, I could hear official voices, the sound of handcuffs clicking, someone reading rights clearly. "Daniel Bennett, you're under arrest for identity theft, wire fraud, and conspiracy to commit embezzlement. You have the right to remain silent." The line went dead. Ethan closed his laptop and sat down across from me at the kitchen table, his face calm. "Is it over?" I asked, my voice shaking. "The arrests are over. The recovery process is just beginning." Ethan's voice carried the same calm certainty I'd grown to recognize. "But yes, Grandma, the part where we were victims is over. Now we get to be survivors." I looked at my grandson. This child who'd systematically dismantled 2 adult criminals with nothing but intelligence and determination, and finally understood what had really happened here. Daniel thought some mysterious enemy had targeted him. He'd spent days looking over his shoulder, paranoid about who was hunting him down. He never suspected that his own son had been watching him all along, documenting everything. The boy he'd abandoned without a second thought had become the architect of his downfall. Ethan hadn't just protected us. He delivered justice to every family Daniel and his girlfriend had betrayed. And he'd done it all while keeping up with his homework and taking chemistry tests. My grandson had given Daniel exactly what he deserved. Consequences. Real family doesn't abandon each other when things get difficult. Real family doesn't steal futures to fund selfish dreams. But real family also doesn't let anyone hurt the people they love. Not even when that someone shares their last name. 6 months later, I was reading a novel at my kitchen table when Ethan burst through the front door with more energy than I'd seen from him since before Daniel left. "Grandma, check this out." He dropped his backpack and pulled out an official-looking envelope. "It's from the district attorney's office." I set down my book and took the letter, my hands trembling. The state seal at the top made my heart race. "Restitution payment," I read aloud. "In the amount of $18,400. "That's from Nicole's assets," Ethan explained, practically bouncing on his feet. "They sold her car, her jewelry, liquidated some investments she made with stolen money. We're getting back almost half of what Dad took from us. $18,000. Not everything, but enough to breathe again. Enough to start rebuilding Ethan's college fund." "What about the other families?" I asked. "Mrs. Miller got back $22,000. Mr. Hayes got his full amount because they caught Nicole before she could move all of his money." Ethan sat down across from me, his eyes bright with satisfaction. 17 families are getting something back. Not everything, but something. I folded the letter carefully, still hardly believing it was real. "And your father?" Ethan's expression grew more serious. 5 years in federal prison. He pleaded guilty to avoid a longer sentence. He paused. "His lawyer says he might get out in 4 with good behavior." 4 years. Part of me felt relief that it wasn't longer. Part of me wondered if it was long enough. "How do you feel about that?" I asked softly. Ethan considered the question with his usual thoughtfulness. "I feel like justice happened. Not revenge, just consequences." He pulled his laptop from his backpack. "But Grandma, I want to show you something else." The screen displayed what looked like a professional website. The header read, "Family Financial Protection Services, keeping families safe from financial fraud." "Ethan, what is this?" I leaned closer. "Remember how I said I wanted to help other families? Well, I've been working on this for months." He clicked through different pages showing services, testimonials, educational resources. "I've helped 12 families recover stolen money so far, and I've taught dozens of people how to protect themselves from financial fraud." The website was sophisticated, clearly designed, completely professional. At the bottom, I saw the founder's name. Bennett, Certified Financial Crime Prevention Specialist. Certified by who? I asked in amazement. "I took an online course through the National Association of Financial Crime Investigators. Passed their certification exam last month." Ethan grinned. "I'm probably the youngest certified financial crime specialist in the country." I stared at my grandson, this remarkable young man who turned our worst experience into a mission to help others. "Are you making money from this?" "Some, enough to help with household expenses and start rebuilding my college fund." He pulled up another page showing client testimonials. "But honestly, Grandma, I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it because I know what it feels like when someone you trust betrays you, and I know what it feels like to fight back and win." A soft chime came from his laptop. Ethan glanced at the notification, and his expression grew focused. "I need to take this call. It's a family in Oregon whose teenage son has been stealing his grandmother's Social Security checks." He stood up, already shifting into his professional mode. "Ethan, wait." I caught his hand. "Are you happy? Really happy?" He paused, looking at me with those serious brown eyes that reminded me so much of Sarah. "I'm proud, Grandma, of what we survived, of what I can do to help people, of how strong we've become." He squeezed my hand. Dad thought abandoning us would break us. Instead, it taught us what we're really made of. After he went upstairs to take his call, I sat in my quiet kitchen thinking about how much had changed. We'd moved to a smaller house across town, but it felt more like home than the Victorian ever had. I'd gone back to substitute teaching a few days a week, not because we needed the money as desperately as before, but because I missed working with students. Ethan had grown 3 inches and developed a quiet, Confidence of someone who'd faced down real danger and emerged victorious. He still got straight A's. Still helped with dinner, still kissed my cheek goodnight. But he also ran a business that protected families from financial predators. He spoke at community centers about digital security. He consulted with law enforcement agencies about cybercrime prevention. My 13-year-old grandson had become someone I looked up to. The phone rang, interrupting my thoughts. I glanced at the caller ID and froze. Springfield Correctional Facility. Daniel. I stared at the ringing phone, remembering the last time we'd spoken. The desperation in his voice, the sound of handcuffs clicking. The moment his old life ended and his new reality began. The phone kept ringing. After 6 rings, it went to voicemail. 2 minutes later, it rang again. Springfield Correctional Facility. I picked up the phone. And then, without answering, I turned it off. Some bridges once burned don't get rebuilt. Some forgiveness has to be earned, not demanded. And some consequences last exactly as long as they should. Upstairs, I could hear Ethan talking to his Oregon clients. His young voice steady and reassuring as he explained how to document financial abuse and protect vulnerable family members. My grandson had learned that when someone hurts your family, you don't just survive. You make sure they can't hurt anyone else's family either. I smiled and went back to reading my book, listening to the sound of justice being served one phone call at a time. So that's my story. I'd love to hear what you think. Was I wrong to let Ethan handle everything instead of going to the police myself from the beginning? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for more stories like mine.